Have you ever wondered what it's like to be locked up inside the world's deadliest prison? A place where violence and death are a daily occurrence and survival is a constant struggle? Prepare to be shocked as we take a closer look inside the walls of this notorious institution and reveal the harsh reality of life behind bars. We're talking about a place where the nightmares of human rights abuses come to life. Gitarama Prison in Rwanda. Are you ready to enter the world's deadliest prison? A look inside Africa's most inhumane prison. Gitarama Prison, located in Rwanda, Africa, is one of the most brutal and inhumane jails in the world. Originally built to house British laborers in 1960, it now holds a capacity of 7,000 convicts. However, during the Rwanda genocide in the mid-90s, it was reported to have held up to 50,000 detainees, with men having no room to even sit or stand, and some even sleeping in latrines filled with human waste. These human conditions have led to the spread of disease and death among the prisoners. Despite officials claiming that most inmates are murderers, it's important to note that not all of those imprisoned are guilty of the charges against them. They still suffer in the horrific conditions of Gitarama Prison. It's time for change in this savage institution. The government must take immediate action to improve the living conditions of the prisoners and ensure that they're treated with dignity and respect. The international community must also put pressure on the government to take action and bring an end to the inhumane treatment of prisoners in Gitarama Prison. It's the duty of all of us to ensure that human rights are respected and that no one is subjected to such cruel and inhumane treatment. A nightmare behind bars. Gitarama Prison is a nightmare scenario for those unfortunate enough to be detained there. With scarce food rations, constant violence, and inhumane living conditions, survival is a daily struggle. Inmates are forced to resort to unimaginable pressures, such as consuming the remains of the deceased just to stay alive. Overcrowding and poor sanitation have led to widespread illnesses, with no respite from the relentless rain. Detainees are packed in at a suffocating 4 per square yard, with barely any room to sit or lay down. The journey to access basic necessities like bathrooms and cooking areas takes hours, and every day 5 to 10 people lose their lives to illness or injury. Built to hold 500, Gitarama Prison now holds a staggering 7,000 inmates, with hundreds more streaming in daily. These conditions are unacceptable, and it's hard to fathom how they can be allowed to exist in the 21st century. Injustice and inhumanity. Trapped in the horrors of Gitarama Prison, where justice is non-existent and survival is a constant battle, inmates facing charges related to their involvement in the '94 Rwanda genocide are left to suffer in inhumane conditions. Despite the passage of over a year since the genocide, in which an estimated 500,000 Tutsi minority were killed, the country's justice system remains ineffective, and basic necessities such as power, water, and communication have yet to be fully restored. While the government denies the widespread use of torture, secret detention facilities where prisoners are subjected to torture and execution do exist. The government, which is struggling financially, states that without foreign aid, it's unable to improve conditions. This lack of justice has further exacerbated ethnic tensions and hindered reconciliation between Hutu and Tutsi. Government officials estimate that over 100,000 more individuals are responsible for the genocide and must be apprehended and convicted. Rwanda has also been criticized for human rights violations such as forced disappearances and torture, which is why the UK's policy of deporting asylum seekers there for processing is controversial. In 1995, it was reported that over 1,000 inmates had died in the prison due to a lack of medical treatment and unsanitary conditions. The International Committee of the Red Cross reported that hundreds of prisoners died in 13 Rwanda prisons in the previous year. Mostly due to health issues caused by overcrowding, many of them might be found in Gitarama. A fight for survival among reports of cannibalism. Trapped in a living nightmare, Gitarama Prison is a place where survival is the only goal. With a population of 6,000 to 7,000 inmates, the prison is a breeding ground for inhumane conditions and unsanitary surroundings, leading to even reports of cannibalism. Despite efforts for improvement, the situation remains dire, and human rights organizations have heavily criticized the prison. A small number of inmates are lucky enough to leave unharmed, but for the majority, Gitarama Prison is a fight for survival and widely considered one of the worst in the world. Rwanda's moral crisis. Gitarama Prison and others like it in Rwanda highlights the moral crisis of the government. Despite a year passing since the massacres, the country still has no functioning judicial system, and basic necessities like electricity, water, and communication haven't yet been restored. With more and more people arrested and sent to prison without trial, the government faces increasing accusations of human rights abuses. Over 32,000 Rwandans are currently held in 11 main prisons without access to legal representation, family members, or hope. Relief agency Doctors Without Borders reports that the conditions in these prisons are horrific and that prisoners are being treated like animals. UN officials also claim that there are many secret detention centers where prisoners are subjected to torture and killed. The government states that it wants to expose the horrors and grant access to journalists and UN officials, but lacks funds to improve the conditions without international aid. In conclusion, Gitarama Prison is a shocking example of the dire living conditions and human rights abuses that occur within Rwanda's prison system. Overcrowding, unsanitary surroundings, and even reports of cannibalism are just a few examples of the inhumane conditions that inmates are forced to endure. Despite efforts for improvement, the situation remains dire and has been heavily criticized by human rights organizations. The inadequate infrastructure, lack of basic necessities, and extremely poor living conditions make Gitarama Prison one of the worst in the world. Unfortunately, these horrors aren't limited to Gitarama Prison alone, but are prevalent in the Rwanda prison system as a whole. If you found this video on Gitarama Prison eye-opening and thought-provoking, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give it a like. By subscribing, you'll stay informed on the latest human rights issues that need to be heard. Your support also helps us to continue creating content that raises awareness on important topics like this one and encourages people to take action. So don't just sit there. Hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Together, we can make a change.